Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, a very good evening. Today is a very special day for LinkedIn Local India Online Live. It is a day when we are embarking on a journey of cross border discussions when it comes to corporate veteran integration. Integration or career transition is such a journey. It's got so many personal nuances that any and every sort of a help is much sought after and looked after. It is something that we can do for our brothers and sisters who are going through this journey to make it that much smoother. And with that, we have put together a very special program today for you. But about that a little bit later. Let's talk about the other initiatives we have got lined up for you in the following week. So today is Friday, and here we are with this very special edition of Veteran Corporate LinkedIn Local Live via LinkedIn Live. On Monday, we are back at 9 p.m. IST with another episode of Veteran Spotlight. On Wednesday, we are exclusively done for veterans. It's a roundtable wherein we will have military friendly hiring companies on the table talking about stuff that they are doing in their organizations to look at this talent pool, which is by and large seems to be invisible, not many corporates know about. And we want to initiate that dialogue and that conversation wherein it can result in a long-term sustainable hiring process. It is not a job fair, but the aim there is to start the dialogues between corporates and the veterans to look at career transition and job opportunities for them. So with that, I think with this, I would like to bring us all back to this very special evening, and I am going to pull in everyone onto the stream so that we can start officially here. So once again, on a Friday, balmy evening, 7 p.m. IST, we are gathered here for a veteran corporate integration program. And here are good evening, gentlemen. How are we today?
Good evening, Preeti. Very fine, very fine. So
Right. I
wonderful.
guess we are all good. So, without further ado, Vivek, the stage is all yours. The context is set. We are all ready. Thank you so much, Janwali. So, we're going to make the most of today's evening. I'm looking forward to the discussions myself. Over to you. Let's get started. Thank you.
Thank you, Preeti. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to all of you today. It gives me immense pleasure to announce the ninth LinkedIn local webinar through LinkedIn Live. The theme for today is military veteran integration into the corporate world. My name is Vivek Chadha, and I, along with Preeti Chaudhary and Colonel Amit Verma, will be your host for today. We have some stellar panelists today, and I thank them to come here, taking out the time and share their valuable insights with all of us present here. For the questions, please keep them ready and put them in the chat box that you see on your screen. I thank all of our audience here coming here and participating in the ninth LinkedIn local webinar, and hope that you derive immense value from the same. So without much further ado, I request Preeti to introduce LinkedIn Local to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Vivek. So, quickly to put things in perspective, LinkedIn Local is a LinkedIn property. It is an online to offline meetup concept wherein members who are connected to each other on LinkedIn or not yet connected to each other get to meet and learn from each other. The whole process is for connection, communication, and collaboration. Now, with the unprecedented times and circumstances we are living in, the entire process has moved online for us. So that is why here you are on a LinkedIn Local India online via LinkedIn Live today. So the whole idea for today is to connect with our experts from the veteran community to learn and leverage and take the takeaways that will make our own transition smoother if we are already into that boat, or if we are going to be joining it soon, then today is the evening that will make a lot of difference to us. So before we start, I would invite Colonel Amit Verma, retired, to come and introduce himself. and then we will get started officially. All yours, Amit. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Preeti. The task of introducing the stalwarts today will again be a very difficult job, but I'll have to do it fast. We need to give time to the Q&A, which I think will be the most exciting part of the day today. What I will be doing is I will be putting out the LinkedIn links of the profiles of the three panelists here, and the attendees can go through them for further details. I'll start with General Bali, a stalwart when it comes to the veteran community. We had interacted with him in the Veteran Spotlight earlier also. The energy and the enthusiasm that General Bali brings to the table is that of a youngster. Age is just a number for him. And when it comes to his way with words, he is an amazing person with the craft. And we came across motivated when he engaged with his various stories of the way life was in the army. And for him, as a veteran, now just not just of the uniform, but even in the corporate world, that he has had donned more than one hat. He has been in multiple appointments, and he has made a name for the community, that is the military veterans. I welcome General Bali. John Snyder, amazing. I have been following him on LinkedIn, and it's so great to see you today live. He is what I would aspire to, maybe in 5 or 10 years, because the amount of work that he's been able to do is just phenomenal. He is with HireMilitary. He is an expert as far as the HR field is concerned. The integration that has been achieved by HireMilitary with the US-based companies to get the veterans gainful employment, to give them direction, because that is something that I've seen John do with great passion and enthusiasm. He advises veterans, he engages with veterans, he creates dialogue. Sometimes the people are just trying to find out what's happening. And from the most basic thing to a more advanced part of where the transition is going, John is there for them. We hope to learn a lot from John today. Welcome, John. And then we have our own Lieutenant Colonel Vardhan. He is the Schindler stalwart over here. The Harsh comes across as a person who's been in corporate all his life. Because when you see his interaction on LinkedIn, I see only his team and the friends of that team. The way he's been able to integrate himself in the corporate world is again something that transitioning veterans need to pick up on. It is all about adapting. It's all about being resourceful. And it's all about being there for the community, giving back and not asking anything. I think, Preeti, I'm done. And the links are there in the comments, folks. Looking for the questions.
Thank you very much for that, Amit. Once again, thank you very much, gentlemen, and welcome to this very special edition of Veteran Corporate Integration Evening. Now, before I officially ask you for your views on the topic today, I will take 30 seconds to remind the attendees to please keep putting in their comments and queries into the comments box of this LinkedIn Live. There is a lot of stuff that you will hear now, and I'm sure there is loads of stuff going on in your minds as well, as far as your career transitions are concerned. So please do not hold back. Make sure that you write your questions and queries into the comments box. With that, let me invite the panel now to share their views and their insights onto the topic for today. And today's topic is career transition from a veteran standpoint, the integration that a veteran has to do in the corporate community, the don'ts that are important, and the do's that are equally important, if not more. And with that, I would invite General Bali to first talk about the topic, and then I will go sequentially to the other gentlemen. So thank you once again for being here. It's an honor and a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to this whole evening with a lot of insights. General Bali, all yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Preeti. I will restrict myself to just giving a headline right now, and then we can discuss as we go along. There are two components to this entire challenge. One component is what the community must do for the veterans, because without community support, when I say community, I mean the larger community, not just the veteran community. But the second and the more important facet is what we as individuals need to do for ourselves in terms of enhancing our understanding of what the real challenges are of, if I may use a strong word, disabusing ourselves of certain notions we have. The armed forces are a wonderful island. We have created an island for ourselves. We live on that island. We get used to those great realities. We are in love with those realities, and of course, we can never forget them. But it's only when you step out of that island you realize that there is a vast ocean with very different realities in which you are required to swim. I think there is a great responsibility each veteran has to understand that the world that lies outside. And one of the things we should do today and going forward is to keep passing on that experience. So these are the two things I wanted to say right now. One is what the community has to do for us, but more importantly, what we need to understand and grasp about the reality outside so that we can prepare. Thank you.
Thank you very much, General Bali, for that. And before I go on to the next panelist, here's another reminder for the attendees, please. The panelists are very open to being reached out to. Amit has shared their profile details onto the chat box, the comment box right here. Please make sure that you write a personalized note giving a reference of this LinkedIn Live veteran corporate integration, and they would be able to take you on for any one-on-one or any deeper dives into any areas of their expertise. Between the panel, we have more than 70 years of diverse, different experiences. So people, please do not be shy. Reach out and learn all you can. So with that, I move on to our next panelist, who's Harsh. And Harsh, would you please talk a little bit more about topic today and share your insights as to what can be done and cannot be done? Over to you. Thank you, Harsh.
Thank you, Preeti. I'll just give a brief intro to the people who are watching. After 21 years of putting 21 years service with the army, I left. I've taken premature retirement in the last year, July. I tried to tick all the boxes what every army officer or the defense officer does in India. And I was lucky one by God's grace. The Schindler India also gave me the platform. My transition was smoothly and I smoothly shifted into the corporate world. However, what I am seeing with all my friends, there is no systematic procedure in our country. We are not able to help what General Bali said as a community, certainly as a defense community and then as a larger community, because somebody who has given his lifetime 20 years or 30, 35 years and then moving into the corporate world, it's a different challenge. The onus, I agree, the onus lies onto the officer, but support system, what John will be telling more what is happening in US, that support system is missing, certainly. What you are getting it here on this platform, this is a beginning and I am very sure this will roll into something much bigger. For my transition, I'll say when I moved into the Schindler India, in 22 years have passed after the Schindler India has started its operations in India, and I was the first defense guy who was taken by the Schindler India. I feel proud, lucky that after I was taken, within 3 months, the company decided that they will start going for the veteran hiring. Not as a program as a veteran hiring, but certainly they hired around 11 more officers all over the India and at all over levels, SS officer, 5-year service officer, 10-year service officer, as well as the PMR, that is 2-year service officer. Now, what is the effect of this thing? In Schindler India, first elevator and escalator company which has hired anyone from outside industry. The side effect happened that Otis is a US company, ThyssenKrupp is a US company, and there is a company known as Kone that is Finnish company. Now all these competition companies have also started for the veteran hiring in India. So this is a snowball. I was lucky that I became a thing which started this thing. But yes, what Sir said, General Bali said, that we as a community, we must come out with something in which we are able to give the some ease to the person who is transitioning. It is a total different ball game from the army to the corporate. However, the skill sets required are same. Skill sets are not different, and that is the way. That is the place for which we have gathered here to discuss these issues. Thank you, Preeti.
Thank you so much for that, Harsh. And last but not the least, that brings us to our guest from very, very far away from the other side of the pond. Hello, John. Welcome to LinkedIn Local India Online. Thank you for being here. And I would request you to please talk about the veteran perspective, the similarities, dissimilarities that you see between the Indian context and the US, and more in terms of what is happening for integration from the government and from private sector in the US, just to see where we are at in this country, and then try and establish a system probably here as well, wherein we can leverage all these learnings from the US and make something out of those learnings for here in this country. So thank you very much once again. Over to you.
Absolutely. It is, first of all, good evening, and it's a beautiful morning here in the Kentucky, United States area. I'm absolutely honored to be here. This is a fantastic opportunity for me. I know that that you are interested in hearing on what the U.S. perspective is on veteran integration with the private sector, but this is an opportunity for me to learn from you guys as well, and India. So that's what I'm really excited about. You asked a whole mouthful there, Preeti. So I'm going to try and hit the highlights so that we can get to the questions and answers. I'm absolutely willing to share anything about the veteran transition programs in the United States with anybody, either on this session or afterwards through LinkedIn. Just a very quick bit about me. Actually, I just transitioned, retired from the United States Army this past March, and I had the unique perspective that this is my second transition from the Army. I actually enlisted in 1990 and served a 4-year enlistment before getting out in 1994. And from the things that we've talked about so far before this session and in last week's session, I think that because the Ministry of Defense has a ban on a social media presence for its military members while they are serving, my experience in 1994 at the beginning was probably a lot like what the veterans are going through in India right now, because there was not a great internet presence. It was barely in its infancy at that time. So when I left the Army and went back home to Washington State, I did not have a network. That's what I thought anyway. I think it's important for you to remember right now that you may not have a network in the private sector that you can think about, because you may not have had the opportunity to use tools like LinkedIn prior to your retirement from the defense industry, or from defense, whatever your service was. But you know what? You have a lot of people that you served with that came before you, that retired from the military, and they are in the private sector right now. So before you've had the opportunity to really establish yourself on LinkedIn or another platform to network, reach out to the people that you served with, those mentors that you had in the military while they were still serving, and really take advantage of their experiences. So I guess I wanted to say that at the beginning. So just to talk briefly about the transition program within the United States, we're very fortunate that the official transition program for the Department of Defense was legislated to us by the United States Congress. So it's a matter of law. The Department of Defense does not have a choice in providing transition services to its military members as it leaves. And it also has other partners from within the different government agencies of the federal government, including the Department of Labor and the Department of Veterans Affairs, the Small Business Administration, Department of Education. All of these federal cabinet level organizations are required by law to assist veterans. And that's been very helpful. That doesn't mean that our program is perfect. It is far from perfect. We're just getting there. And what this program does is it provides 40 hours of instruction, formal instruction, to all transitioning service members to help with things like resume preparation, networking, and then also benefits that are available to the transitioning service members through the Department of Veterans Affairs. And we're very fortunate that organization is extremely well funded by our government. But then we also have the ability to customize the transition experience for service members. There's four there's 4 individual tracks that someone can choose once they get the baseline education. They can focus on getting a job through a 2-day. These are all 2-day additional classes that they can go through that include employment, starting your own business if you want to be an entrepreneur. If you want to hire, if you want to expand your education, upskill, I think is the correct term that you've used. It teaches the service member how to evaluate institutes of higher learning to figure out which one is better for you and your goals in the private sector. And then also there's a 4th 2-day track that we call it that allows the veteran to learn about vocational opportunities. We have a wide range of soldiers, airmen, Marines, and sailors that are transitioning on an annual basis, and they don't all want to go into the corporate world. So the vocational track helps those individuals learn how to gain certification and apprenticeships if they want to have a blue collar job in the United States once they transition. The other piece that doesn't come from the federal government are the private organizations that we have in the United States that are absolutely essential, I believe. They're organizations like American Corporate Partners that are made up of individuals that volunteer their time that are part of Fortune 500 companies to mentor over the course of an entire year prior to transition individuals that sign up, and the whole point is to find somebody in the career field that you want to go into in the private sector, and to be paired up with an individual that has that experience. I personally chose to have a mentor that did not have any military experience, because I figured I had the military experience thing down, and I had friends that had already transitioned that I could tap into for that. I wanted somebody who had spent 20 years in human resources, in this case, to be my mentor to help me get into the human resources career field in the private sector. I'm just looking at my notes that I was jotting down as everybody else was talking, because you all brought up some very amazing points. I think I would like to leave this introductory part with just one more thing. We ask all of our military members when they first begin the transition process 3 questions, and we start out by saying, you don't have to answer these 3 questions right now, but you need to think about them. You need to rank order them by what is most important to you, and then later on you can figure out what the real answers to those questions are. When you transition, you need to decide where you want to live. You need to decide what it is that you want to do, and you need to understand how much money you need to make in order to live the lifestyle that you want to live. Once you figure out what's important to you, for instance, it might be where you want to live, and then after that is what you want to do. You may find out that you want to be a software developer and you want to live on the Oregon coast. Well, there may not be any software development firms on the Oregon coast, so that may not be a possibility. But it's that type, or the salaries may not exist in that portion of the United States to support your lifestyle. So those are the 3 questions that we ask all of our transitioning service members to start thinking about as they begin their transition journey. So thank you very much. I'm extremely happy to be here.
Thank you so much for that, John. And the takeaway personally for me here was buddy system that you spoke about, So essentially it is mentoring that you're talking about, but then with a buddy who's there, who's been there, done that, and whose footsteps you can sort of follow in, and then sort of start your journey in the corporate world. So amazing insights. Thank you very much for that. The evening is just beginning, folks. Again, a gentle reminder, please let those questions and comments keep coming in now, because now is the time wherein we've set the context for the entire evening. You have the panel in front of you. Their LinkedIn profile links have been shared. So I'm sure you would have gone through the profiles and come up with certain kind of questions that you would want to address to each one of them. So now is the time. Please keep on writing them, because now is when the interactive bit of the evening starts, and this will go for as long or as short as we keep on getting these questions and comments. So with that, let us start this section of our LinkedIn Live veteran corporate integration. And I'm handing the baton back to Vivek to begin the proceedings. Vivek, over to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Preeti. So we have some comments and questions coming in. So I'll start with the first question for General Bali. The question is, how effective are the online courses and certifications?
Okay, can I just jump in for a minute and talk about what John said? I think if anyone's
Please.
heard him, these are possibly some of the most relevant, um, some of the most wonderful suggestions and recommendations. I'm going to pick two of these because these are really important, and somebody has commented on one of these. Uh, Someone called Mayank Sharma, who says he has been hiring army guys as civil engineers, finds that they do not have the same skill set as is required by the world outside. I tend to agree with a thing like this. That's what John meant about upskilling. I think we owe it to ourselves to find out as to what is really going outside. Now, I'm a CEO of a rural education society. We used to run 92 schools and colleges, including engineering colleges, colleges of architecture, and so on. And in all my interaction with the industry, I found that the reason why people are not employable are two. Uh, One of them is that the education that they've had or the experience that they've had is no longer relevant to what is going on outside. All right. So therefore, that gap has to be bridged. So I agree with Mayank there that that is an important issue. The second thing that industry leaders pointed out to me is that people lack soft skills. Of now, that is an area which the army guys don't lack. I'm happy to say that that is a box we can tick. But as far as the upskilling part is concerned, it's very important. Second of the many good things, important things John said, is about networking. You know, the later you transition out of the army, the harder it is for you to get a job because you are now becoming, both in terms of age and rank, probably senior. Someone like me, when I stepped out, I had planned it for 5 years because I knew that no one is going to offer me a small job or a low job, even if I'm willing to accept it. And to get a more responsible position in a company, somebody has to trust in me. Somebody has to believe that I will be good. So for that reason, you've got to network. People have to know you. People have to know what you're made of, and that will help you. Now to answer the question that has been asked by someone about online courses. There are courses and there are courses. It all depends on what kind of course you pick. I have done several courses on Coursera, on edX, on Udemy, and I have even created a course for Udemy, which has just gone live. So it all really depends on whether you're looking for the course as a value to learning or whether you're looking for a course to add to your CV in addition to learning. Sometimes the online courses are not given much credence as far as your CV goes, at least at this point of time. After COVID era, when more and more people start doing things online, I presume that situation might change. But today, people require genuine certification. To give you one last example before I pass it on back to Vivek, someone told me 3 months ago that after the COVID, the issue of occupational health and safety will become an important issue. Now, there is an ISO certification for that, ISO 45001. I first did two courses on Udemy. I can tell you that one course I did only in a day because I just sat in the morning and I went through the whole thing. Uh, well, one of them was not useful at all, and one of them was somewhat useful for knowledge. But eventually, I ended up doing a proper IRCA certification, a 5-day online course, followed by a proper examination. So pick this thing very well. Are you looking for knowledge? Then, of course, everything gives you knowledge. But if you're looking for knowledge and credibility, then I think look for the source of the course that you're going to do. Thank you. Back to you, Vivek.
Excellent points there, General Bali. Okay, moving on to the next question. This is for Harsh. How to create visibility on LinkedIn and create a meaningful network. That's the question.
Okay, Vivek, for this question, certainly for the veterans also, as well as for the civil community also, in present days, without visibility, without showing yourself what you are inside, getting a transition is very difficult right now. It has, rather I'll say that this visibility has made our life very easier. The thing which we used to be able to do after we used to reach interview table, and that too in 30 minutes, now you can keep on showing your personality, your psyche, and rather by the videos you can see show how you speak and everything, and then it's very easy for a HR to pick you up. Now, to make the point of visibility, how to increase the visibility is totally different, though it is not relevant to today's topic. But I'll certainly say start adding value to the LinkedIn with a meaningful content of your choice. It should not be copied, certainly content of your choice, and then make a network of your people with the topics which resonate with you. Start interacting on those topics, start giving comments and likes, and with the meaningful intent, meaningful comment. Certainly the visibility starts spreading slowly, and as it is networking, it increases exponentially. Initially, it might take some time, but increases exponentially, and then you are in the radar of all the people. And but mind it, it has got a negative impact also. You have to be careful what you post, because it is actually, if you are posting every day or twice a day or twice a week, certainly at some times you'll be able to take your personality will come. So you have to have a positive personality, which HR or the recruiter is always on the lookout. Vivek.
Thank you, Harsh. A couple of points from my side. So how I look at LinkedIn is basically LinkedIn is a, concurrent networking event that never ends. So it is going on, people are coming in, people are available, and you can reach out to them. We should make use of that opportunity. This is a platform that has never been before. And, this is something where anybody who has zero sort of PR or zero presence can make use of. Second, in my connects, less than 1% of the people actually post. Most of the people only go and look at the post. At max they would like or comment. So there is a huge opportunity here. If you decide to post one post per week, just one post per week, you would in the top to LinkedIn by actually sorry for the disruption. So what I'm saying is that if you decide to post one post per week, you will actually come in the top 1% of people who actually are contributing to the platform in terms of writing posts. The third is veterans, I believe, are very high on soft skills. There may be divided opinions on this in the corporate, but my personal belief is that soft skills factor is very high. And there are a lot of experiences, leadership experiences that veterans can share. And they should share it with the world and, come up with their own original stories and share with the world of what they're actually made of. And slowly and steadily, they can create a so-called personal brand and tell the world what they're made of. So those are the points from my side. We'll move on to the next question. This question is for John. Any job portals that are useful for transitioning veterans in the US?
First of all, Vivek, bravo. Your statement about posting once a week on LinkedIn is spot on. Because the fact of the matter is that if you're liking and commenting on someone else's content, someone else's post, that person and that person's connections, if they choose to scroll through the comments, will see and get a snapshot into your mind and your professional mind, that is, and so that's good. But when you create content, and it doesn't need to be some just magical professional post. It just needs to be something that you believe in. Maybe it's an article that you read online that you want to share with your network with a sentence or maybe even 2 sentences. It doesn't need to be Tolstoy, some brilliant novel that you write. Just do that. And then as you have opportunity and you get more comfortable, start sharing some of your professional experiences. So then your network and then their broader network, as they like and comment on your content, is shared out to even more people. And that is how you're going to get a meaningful network that is going to assist you in your transition. And we're not just talking about a transition from military to veteran status. At some point, you are going to, you probably are going to want to transition to a different company. Well, you need that network. And it doesn't mean as soon as you get out of the military and get a job, you stop working on LinkedIn. You have a job to do as veterans. Number one, we all have a responsibility to make things better for the people that come behind us, right? The second thing is you have a duty to yourself to make sure that you maintain your network so that you can so that you can have opportunity for yourself and for your family. Now, I'm sorry about that little diatribe. The actual question, I believe, is asking about when you say job portal. I think that they mean places to go to find veteran-friendly job postings. Is that?
That's right.
Okay.
That's correct.
That is correct.
Okay. The answer is almost. We're almost there. So I'm sure the case is the same in India. There's Indeed, Glassdoor, other similar type job boards that are available for everybody to use. And that company might be looking to hire veterans, or really they're probably just looking for talent. It doesn't matter what pool it comes from. We use the analogy over here that it's almost like being drowning or drowning and dying of thirst at the same time. There's so much information that you don't know where to go. So in order to try and solve that problem, one of the things that I'm really proud of before I left the Army, and for those of you that don't know, I actually ran the Army's transition assistance program for the last 3 years before I retired. One of the things that we tried to do is we established a program that we called unofficially Tactical Connect. We had the strategic piece in place with our legislative branch, as well as the organization called Soldier for Life that went out to do the handshakes, we call them grip and grins, with corporations to talk about how great transitioning soldiers there are. But there was really nothing to get to a job portal that was specific to veterans at the tactical level, where the soldier on the ground is actually looking for a job. So what we did is we partnered with a company called HireMilitary. It's a U.S. company. I'm sorry, Recruit Military. I apologize. A company called Recruit Military, and so the beauty of this partnership is that it's not costing the United States government or the United States Army any money. It is simply a partnership where Recruit Military understands that as soldiers begin their transition process at each of our transition centers, we tell them that if they're interested in finding veteran-friendly employers, that they go to the website for Recruit Military, and then Recruit Military has the job of finding those veteran-friendly employers, which is very easy because all they have to do is say, hey, we have about 85,000 transitioning soldiers every single year. We're telling them all that they should go to this website. So if you want access to a talent pool, you go and post your jobs on this website as well. Now this partnership is very, very new. It's only come about in the last couple of months. So there still is a lot of work to do, but that is how we're trying to help focus transitioning soldiers.
Sure. Thank you, John. I'll request Amit to take over for the next questions.
Thank you, Vivek. The question would now be going on to Harsh. It is from Madhav. Colonel Hirsch, sir, please throw some light on the preparations that can be done during a transition from military to corporate. With what he is looking for is some specific tips as to how to get it started. Also, kindly share your experience when it pertains to, say, your initial transition. What is the challenge that you faced in brief?
Okay, thank you, Amit. Uh, though there is nothing perfect template for a transition, General Bali said very clearly there's a problem here. However, I'd like to share my experience, what I faced, how I did, and in which I succeeded. Certainly, I succeeded. What I suggest the first thing required for the army or any defense person coming out is the skill mapping. This word is very fancy, it looks very easy. However, when a person comes out of the defense forces, he is not realizing what is HR, what is operations, what is supply chain. This happened with me. It might not be happening with everyone. Other people are much more aware because I took a call of coming out in a very just a matter of month. I decided and put up my papers, and then I came out. Within 1 month, I was in the resettlement course in Lucknow. 6 months IIM course. So skill mapping. First, you realize at that time every person thinks कि we can do anything. बस बाहर कुछ we get anything and we will be able to do. However, it is not a very advisable thing. You should see what type of potential you have got or which type of job you are inclined to. So skill mapping is a very important aspect. A person should certainly invest time and study about this online, what type of vertical he wants to enter. Now, after seeing the vertical, what I did personally for myself, I chose the industry, which type of industries I will prefer. I made a list of around 18 to 20 companies, 18 to 20 companies international, as well as same 18, 20 companies of national. After that, by the time I started LinkedIn, this is the last year, 2019, beginning of the year, around January, February. So I started LinkedIn, and LinkedIn was the platform with which I was able to make connections in these 80, 20 companies. That is total 40 companies. And I started reading about these companies in detail. In detail, I used to take one company. Suppose I was reading for Boeing. I sent the network connection request to Boeing people. And then I started reading about the company, what type of investment it is doing in India, what type of projects they're starting. For Boeing, it happened that at that time only they have acquired a franchisee for KLX International from US, which they were going to establish here. So I studied in detail about that aspect. So what I mean to say, you make a list of the industry which you want to pursue, or oblique the companies also. It might happen that you might not be able to go into that chosen. But however, if you don't have a focus, which side I will go, whatever job I'll get, or whatever vertical I'll get, I'll move into, is not a very correct idea as per me. However, maximum of the people think कि जो भी job मिलेगा, I'll move into that thing. That is a good thing. But once you focus, then you can focus on that piece and that direction, and you can move towards that direction. Because of that, I got a lot of help. After the choosing the industry and the company, side by side resume preparation is a very important aspect, which I realized what I am saying, because in my course there were 50 officers, and I have, with those, interacting with those 50 officers, I realized what time plan they were following for everything. Resume was supposed to be the last thing whenever when suppose our course started in the month of January, and by April the companies were supposed to come. So it was a tendency was that in the end we will make resume. However, I realized that the resume takes maximum time. It's not a 1 or 2 day effect, and you don't have to get it done through the external agency. You can take help from the external agency, but you have to make it yourself. You can convert those skill sets, but as per your quality, because resume is only a thing which can get you an interview. You don't have to put on everything in resume. It should be made in such a manner that it catches the fancy eyes of the HR. You have to make it that way. It should not be too much, too many qualities, too many heavy words should not be included. So, but that thing will come out only once you make a draft resume and keep on working on it. For me, it took 2 to 3 months to come to the final resume, which I was not knowing before. I'll take this much time. Even I thought I'll take a copy from someone and then cut, copy, paste. I'll add my qualities. I'll do it, but it was not possible. So resume is very important. And fourth point is, again, I'll say most important, which I realized in my course, my friends also who transition, is the preparation of interview. I realized there is a tendency with all the veterans that I have given 20 years in the service. I'll go and talk like that. I'll tell my experience. Guys, at that time also I felt, and I'll suggest one thing also, right now also, it's not about you. What have you done? You have to understand what the HR, what the recruiter, what the company is wanting. You have to convert your skill set into their language so that he understands ki what is he looking for. Are you able to give it to him? So that adaptability, that agility, that flexibility, we have to understand that is our responsibility. When we start blaming that HR is not taking, that are we paying attention, that are we able to give what he is wanting? So interview preparation is a very important aspect, and interview preparation should be done from the point of view of HR. So these 4 points will certainly, these were the I took, these are the guidelines and I prepared for interview every time. One thing I always used to tell to my postmates, being a defense officer, once you have qualified the SSB, so be mentally prepared. I don't expect that suppose you get an interview call and you're not selected, it's not possible. That will only happen if you're not prepared for the questions and answer and you're thinking that you have got 20 years experience and you'll go and say anything. That won't be happening. The last point I'd like to say, which every defense officer has used throughout his life, I don't know why at the time of transitioning it starts dwindling, is the confidence. Guys, when you can clear the SSB, you can lead troops for 10 years, for short service 20 years or 30 years. Lack of confidence is not possible. You keep confidence, and certainly the whatever you want you can achieve. Certainly you can achieve. Have confidence in yourself. That's all I can say. Amit.
Can I just chip in for a moment to add just a little bit to what he just said? Yeah, let me add. He's said a lot of practical things. I'm going to take a step back. You see, as somebody who's been CEO of two different companies, and ever since I superannuated, I've faced a lot of people who came for interviews, so I know both sides of the story. One of the issues is that we, as army officers or armed force officers, we know we made a lot of contribution over the years. We've done a lot of different jobs, and let's say we even bring the resume as everybody does, suitably sort of jazzed up. It is very hard to focus and to decide what kind of industry you want to work, but of course you can probably. But greater responsibility lies in your figuring out which is the job where you will give the maximum possible, where you bring the maximum possible to the table. This may seem like an obvious point. It isn't. I'm going to give you an example. Many army officers who land up for interviews, and I've seen people being interviewed. I have spoken at the IM Ahmedabad twice to this course. They feel that they are going to present a resume, they'll highlight their capabilities and their experience, and then it is for the company to figure out how they are going to be valuable. Let me tell you something. The HR guy who's looking at you is possibly a middle-aged guy who is very appreciative of your service to the nation, but he can't figure out how and where you will bring value. So typically, I've had officers telling me, "Sir, I can do anything. I have been a transport officer also. I can look after logistics. I am, of course, an HR guy in operations. I have been good. I can do anything." No, that doesn't cut. You got to specify after reading the company's profile and the job profiles, how specifically will you bring value? Unless you're able to convince this to the HR guy who's facing you, your CV is not even going to go to this to the chairman or to the CEO. I will end this by giving an example. There was somebody I met, a veteran in the Ahmedabad doing a course, and he told me that he had a lot of experience in a certain area. I don't want to name it, but let's call it media, for example. And he said, I would like a job in that direction. So I said, all right, let me run a mock interview with you. And then, of course, we will see. So I asked him, tell me about yourself. He spoke for 5 uninterrupted minutes about the fact that he had a great company commander, how many basketball tournaments they had won, what he'd done in Kashmir, how his CEOs banked on him, how reliable he was always. Great, wonderful. But I said, I didn't hear the word media. I didn't hear how you're going to bring value to my company. Okay, so I'm giving you this very stark example. It may sound a little too candid, but that's a fact. Figure out what are you going to do, how are you going to bring value. Don't expect the HR to tell you that. Yeah, thank you.
And I think taking on from what the points have come out from the two panelists, I have a question for John here. How do you highlight your military experience in a parlance that a military friendly company who really wants to hire a veteran? How do you convince them that what you're getting to the table is good? How do you modulate that? Any advice there?
That's the $1 million question. Tagging on to what General Bali just said, and we have a whole bunch of experience, but how do we translate that into something that someone that may not have any experience, or maybe there was a family member that was in the military, but that's the extent of their knowledge of what it is that we do as armed forces members. So this is my suggestion to everybody. I don't know if this term is familiar in America. I don't know if it's familiar in India, but they're called informational interviews. I don't know if you've heard of it. Great. If not, I'll explain it briefly. You have an incredible tool at your fingertips. Once you've established your LinkedIn profile, go and use the search function and search for people who are currently in the career field that you want to go into, and then go over into their past employment history and search for veterans of the Indian Armed Forces. And then you'll get a list of people, and reach out to them through LinkedIn and simply ask them, once you've had the opportunity to connect, simply ask for 15 or 30 minutes of their time to discuss their experience with transition and their current role that they're in now. And during that discussion, you're going to pick up the tips and the tricks to translate your military experience into language that people are using right now in the private sector, in the career field that you want to go into.
Okay, I think that part about the informational interview, we do something similar. We do call up our veterans who have transitioned before us into the corporate world, and we try and get the information from them. In fact, something what Harsh and General Bali are doing right now, they're sharing their experiences. Now, that will depend on the veteran as to how he takes the advice, because not everybody is at the same place when
You're
it
right.
comes to the transition. Many people believe transition is a stop. You can go across. But I think transition is a journey. And here I have a question for General Bali, which is coming in from Mayank. This is more about the engagement that we as a veteran could expect from the government. That he's giving an example of Japan, where the technology and engineering giants were earlier converted from the military usage to commercial use. Do you see that the government, when it is going up with the Atmanirbhar Bharat or Make in India initiative, that there are opportunities for mandating a veteran engagement in hiring by these companies, by the government?
There is undoubtedly a very vast ocean of opportunity there, but we will have to build enough momentum, enough, if I may use an American term, lobbying, to ensure that the government begins to create and run a program pretty much what John described. I don't think it's going to cost millions of dollars or millions of rupees. It's not such an expensive program where you start focusing more and more on specific upskilling of veterans for specific industries. I am not talking about the IM course. All right, many of you have done it. I can see people here like Pranav, Prashar, and all who have done courses. I understand that they are valuable too. But sometimes the industry wants an exact transition. Let us say you've been a software engineer in the Indian Army. You've been working in the signals, and now you want to work in a software company. Maybe the languages being used there are different than what you've learned or what you've been using. Sure, you can learn, but somebody has to give you that opportunity. It is, of course, your own responsibility, but I think communities like what Preeti and Amit and Vivek are leading, we should develop enough momentum. We should advocate this case, and we should try and persuade the government. I think it's not rocket science. It is something that the government probably would be willing to do, particularly, I suppose, right now. So I think we should push for this. Uh, I know of certain agencies in the civilian street, certain hiring agencies, which also at least theoretically offer that opportunity, but I don't think they spend much money on that. So I think the government route, as what Mayank has asked, that should be created, that can be created. It doesn't exist right now. Yeah, back to you.
Thank you, Shal Bali. I think the main thing that we need to focus on here is that we can expect everything from the government, we can expect everything from the corporate. But what finally works is what we are able to do for ourselves. Whether it is a single veteran trying or a group of veterans trying, we have to keep trying new things. And some of those will work out, definitely. Here, I have a question which is coming on now to Harsh. And I believe this would be from somebody who's been with you in Schindler. Lieutenant Colonel Harshvardhan, sir, what is the difference you face in handling team in corporate and in army? What's the difference?
Yeah, but I'll say the answer to this question, that's what I said initially. The skill sets required in the army and the corporate is same. We just have to understand how to use it. What I realize, I'll not say difference. I'll say what skill sets are used from army to the corporate is the interpersonal relations. What when we are handling large teams in the army, we use all sorts of tactics. It is not only that we are using danda or we are using empathy. We use a mix of everything. We are empathize also, and we are very strict also. And when we are able to handle this large teams comfortably, if we handle the corporate teams in the same manner, whenever you want to give a message to the team, it is required. However, empathy is more required. And the skills which I used in the army is exactly the same. I'm using it here. And by God's grace, the team is fabulous that they are understanding this thing. And this actually, I'm learning from my team, this difference is happening in the company. And that is why the company is wanting to move to more towards the veteran side. So now the soft skills, what John has also said and Vivek also said that they are actually the USPs of the any defense person. So all these soft skills are helping me in this team handling. It is team building, how we build the team in the defense forces by more interactions. It is not only the official interactions. We meet during the sports, we meet during dinners also, we make special occasions to meet. That was missing. That was certainly missing. Now because of introducing those things in my team here, it is helping me very much. So basic nuances of handling of team is same. However, for any defense person, handling a team is a very easy thing because he has done it throughout his life. And if he uses the same principles of army, it's quite easy to manage a team here. However, here you need to give reasons for every actions what you are asking from the team. It cannot be an order. But if you are able to justify why you are asking it, the team is 100% for you and always there. Amit.
I apologize for hogging the time so much, but I'm just going to jump in for 30 seconds more.
Please.
I want to give a little macro view of what is the difference. The first thing that we veterans must understand is that we have operated in an environment where there was no profit motive. And we are used to getting the job done irrespective of the cost involved, not just in terms of money, but also in terms of the effort, the number of people we employ. You know how it is. I'm an infantry officer. We can throw in 100 people into a job which probably require 10, but we'll get it done. Our focus is on being effective, not so much on being efficient. If you go by the typical definition of efficiency of effort versus output. So first thing, you got to develop a mind for a profit motive, because outside everything is numbers. Okay.
Yes.
You can't just come out and say I want to hire 5 more people. Then I'm going to work. It just simply won't work out. Second thing I would say is calm down a little bit on your protocol. The army is a very hierarchical organization, full of respect for each other based on your rank and your stature and your seniority. We get used to it. And it is heartening to see how many veterans so easily fit into corporate sector because they just sort of take that uniform off for a while. They don't forget the values, but they don't start imposing their protocol and seniority outside. But some people do, and they are not going to be successful. The third and the last thing I will say is, in the army, we work as teams. We work with say I was a GOC, I had several subject matter experts helping me out. When you come out, you're pretty much supposed to be all by yourself. You will have some support, but by and large, you're the guy. If you're driving it, you're probably driving it alone or maybe with another couple. So don't expect large teams all around you. I agree with the Harsh's other point. Leadership is a little different outside. It is more transactional. In the army, the leadership is more relational. You really relate to each other like a family. Outside, it becomes a little transactional. But nothing stops you from bringing the value of relations into the corporate sector also. I promise not to speak for the next 5 minutes. Thank you. Back to you.
That's okay. I think
So
John
these are
has a.
insights for me too.
I think John has a very interesting story here in terms of rank and file. John, I remember from the time when you and I were talking last week, you had a very interesting comment. Would you mind sharing that with us, please?
Well, I'm glad that I had at least one interesting point during our conversation.
No, you had more than one actually, but yeah, this will do for now. Thank you.
So I think what you're referring to, Preeti, is as the connection requests have come in from Indian military veterans to me, I've noticed predominantly the LinkedIn profiles include the rank of the person that when they retired. Now there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. However, I would offer to you that it is a mindset, just like General Bali just said, and where it starts, where you get that to sink into your head, can be as simple as your LinkedIn profile, because you're not asking, unless you're going into the defense sector for or to be a defense contractor. Everything that everyone said so far, or you're in a panel like this, rank is really irrelevant. That just like in India, there are people that have great respect for the fact that I serve, but they don't care that I retired as a lieutenant colonel. What they care about is what I'm going to bring to their corporation. So simply something to think about. I went just very quickly last night to look at Martin Dempsey's LinkedIn profile. He was the previous chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff for the American military, and his LinkedIn profile, his name says Martin Dempsey. Now he does talk about the fact that he was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff in his profile, and that is absolutely appropriate for all of us to do, because that is where our job experience came from. Just something to think about.
Thank you for that, John. Amit?
I think if I can just share a small tidbit here, the rank
Yep.
becomes a part of you when we are serving. We hold on to rank because it does convey to us certain privileges, it does convey to us certain responsibilities, and we are proud to show it to people that this is something that I have achieved. The only difference here is, as long as the pride remains, the naming part can be different. If I have written Amit just now, sorry, that's this side. If I've written Amit just now, the colonel always remains. The rank is for life. The officer retires, the rank never retires. And that's accepted. I'm able to get the rank when it gives me sort of credibility to the table. But if I don't get the rank, what I'm able to get is youthfulness. Some of us are colonels and we are still young. And I will say some of us are generals and they are still younger. So it is not at all about the rank. It is just about the attitude. And as long as you're willing to adapt, I think that's where we are going with. And here, John, I would love to get some more insight about this. The question is from Vivek Negi. Originally, the question was intended to come in for Harsh, but I'm diverting it to you. How do you feel the military experience prepared you for your corporate experience? what are the transferable skills and what are the strengths that you got from your uniform that you have now been able to use in your corporate stint and succeed?
So, from my military experience, I think probably there are two major skills that have helped me to get to where I'm at right now in my corporate experience. The first one that was already mentioned is the fact that I've been asked to do a lot of different jobs over the course of my military career, and that constant learning is something that I've had to do in these new positions, and really helped me with taking that learning attitude with me into the private sector, not just on the job, but also expanding my skill set as I was preparing to go by getting the training and certification for being a senior human resources person through HRCI. The other thing that is something that is more personal to me, and why I'm extremely happy to be in the position that I'm in. I love soldiers. I love taking care of soldiers. That is between soldiers and my family. That is what really makes my heart grow. So moving into the company that I'm in now, HireMilitary, that assists transitioning service members across all of the American Armed Forces to find an internship to prepare themselves for their next life after the military, is it was natural for me, and so really that attitude and the attitude that I took through my military career of taking care of soldiers is what drove me to figure out how to do that best. And that may not be the answer that they're looking for, but that's what works for me.
No, absolutely. Thank you so much for that. It's never one size shoe fits all in any case, John. So that is your experience. I'm sure it will be different for General Bali, and it will be different for her, and Amit and Vivek and myself as well. So thank you very much for that. Um, I will take over now from this section, and I would quickly like to read a few comments that have come in. Here is Dr. Major Rupinder Kaur saying, "Welcome, John, to the community. Kind of you to be a part of this forum, helping Indian veterans transition." So thank you very much from all of us once again. And with that, I am now here with a question directed actually to you, John. So there is this whole fear of the millennials, and this is especially so from the veterans who have spent upwards of say 30 years or 25 years and then transitioned. So there is this constant fear of how are we going to compete with this new lot, the millennials per se, and show that we have equal or more value. What to do about this sort of a mindset, and how can that be handled, and the mind can be calmed down a little bit. So your insights here, please, John. Thank you.
There's a couple of things that I'd like to say. Number one, first things first, you are a transitioning or transitioned military officer. You had millennials that served underneath you. Okay, congratulations. Get over yourself and take a step forward and figure it out. The second thing that I would say, I think, is that yes, you have peers that did not go into the military and instead went directly to school and then onto their civilian career or directly into their civilian career. What we typically tell and what we see of transitioning veterans in America is that because there is, in some cases, not an understanding of the skills that the veteran is bringing to the workforce, don't expect to immediately leave military service, in most cases, and make the same amount of money that you made while you were in the military or more money. But be humble, know your skills, walk into an industry, and as you're gaining experience in that civilian career field, that's when your soft skills are really going to take over, your supervisors and bosses in the corporation will see the value that you bring to your team. And what we see is that the veteran typically is promoted and receives raises at a much, much faster rate than their peer that never had military service and went directly to the private sector. So keep that in mind. Number one. Number two, the whole millennial thing, they're just people. Realize the value that you bring to the team and realize that they bring value to the team as well. So harness their talents and make your team better when you get there. There is such a thing as leading as a peer, leading from in front and leading from behind. So make your team better once you get in. And your bosses will see that and reward you for it.
Right.
Preeti,
Okay.
jump in
Thank you
here.
very much. Sure, please. Go ahead, Amit.
I would agree with, yeah, Preeti, I would agree with John here. The issue about how to handle young people, millennials would be a term that would be more apt to the US because they have differentiations in their age profile, which we do not share with them. In army, commanding the number of people or interacting with the number of people that we have done, be it Air Force or Navy, we have got used to ages. We know how to get a youngster motivated to the point that we can lead them to war. I'm pretty sure we can get them to lead them in sales or marketing or any other function also. The only difference here will be to get the compassion and empathy that Hersh is talking about and making it work for us. The other point I would say here is not all veterans come in the same batch. There is no one type of a veteran. Just as in the civil world, there will be so many different types. You would have veterans who have survived combat. Their experience and their leadership skills will be of a completely different variety. You would have veterans who have served in supply chain. They have the existing skills. Even a person, maybe in the civil world, they don't have got a chance for. Some of our engineers, some of our electronics engineers, and people who have worked with specialist equipment, they get to use cutting edge technology. So not all veterans come in the same mold. So that's the point I'm trying to put out there. And every veteran has to figure out their own journey for themselves. Thank you, Preeti.
Thank you very much for that, Amit. General
Can I
Bali,
just
my
add,
next question is for you.
can I just add one little thing to this?
Sure, please.
I think uh, what you got to understand about dealing with millennials is that uh, we are dealing with a generation which is very aspirational. They are not. You've got to understand and respect from where they're coming from. They do have a lot of knowledge about areas that you may not be adept at. They may understand technology far better than you do. Gone are the days, and I'm just speaking in this Indian context, where you just because you had a rank or you could speak in a certain language, you were automatically respected. That's not going to happen. Those days are past. Even in the armed forces, we have recognized that people are very aspirational now, and you just can't sort of steamroll that leadership style if it existed. I think is should have been over and is over long time ago. I think the most valuable word, which I picked up from John, I think even probably Amit said that, we need to be a little humble about this. All right, we've got to look at this with a little humility and a little empathy. And the good old leading by example never goes out of fashion. You've got to be visible. You've got to be in the middle of the action. If you've given work to people, I remember my BD guys used to sit down at night and start preparing. They had to prepare a bid. They used to go until late at night. First time when I took over as CEO, I realized that they are working at night. So I went to the office, back to the office. I ordered some pizza, went and sat there, and they said, "So what are you doing here?" I said, "Nothing. I'm going to play solitaire. I don't know what you guys are doing, but I just want to hang around." What the hell? I mean, you're suffering. I'm just going to sit here. Well, this is not to give my personal examples, but to tell you that leading by example, being visible, never goes out of fashion. I think it is appreciated sooner rather than later. Yeah, thank you. Go on, please.
Thank you very much for that, General Bali. My next question is actually for you. Um, Cross leveraging or transferring your forces skills to a corporate lingo, to a corporate CV. Couple of pointed examples how that can be achieved or done. That will be really helpful. it's a question which is much in demand by quite a few people who are into this situation right now. So maybe one or two examples of leading 200, whatever comes to your mind from your experience. Please share that with us. Thank you.
Look, I'm not greatly attracted by the idea of only changing your language or
Hmm.
to be able to use a certain jargon. Everybody understands those things because today everybody jazzes up a CV in a certain way. That by itself is not enough. I am talking about changing your mindset. I am talking about understanding the industry so well that you automatically begin to relate to what is going on outside. Language will follow, the lingo will follow. Uh, I think a couple of things you can do is, like I said, one of the things we really suffer from is that since we have given our everything to the army or the armed forces, we carry that entire baggage into to life outside. That is something that we really got to be very sensitive about. I started out as a CEO in a rural education society in Maharashtra, and one of the first things I did is I started dressing down. uh, this business of carrying rank or not carrying rank is, it's neither here nor there. It depends on where you are. I have never carried a rank because it affected me. It probably brought some advantage to the company. But having said that, you start dressing down, you start behaving like everybody else. You don't let go of your values, for sure. But be more like the people you're going to be serving with, because everyone is looking at you a little skeptically in any case. They all think that you come from the army and you're going to bring the whole army thing into the corporate, which is not true, which is not true at all. So I think it's not so much the language or the lingo or what you need to say. I think it is the understanding you must develop. See, for example, sorry to keep talking about the rank again and again. I'm not pulling
That's
rank
okay.
here. Fact of the matter is, in my company, I was called major routinely. For months altogether, people called me major. They didn't know who I was. And they just thought, Fauji as Major General, so they called me major. Somebody called something else. Somebody called Mr. And one person walked up to me and said, I'm very confused. What should I call you? I mean, somebody calls you general, somebody calls you major. I said, why didn't you try His Excellency? I mean, that'll settle the that'll do nicely for me. Thank you. Anyway, to say, therefore, I think we need to have that mindset. We got to understand that there is a great competence in the corporate sector. I think I'm going to be criticized for what I'm about to say, but in many cases, we army officers have had it easy. There is far greater. No, we have suffered. We have suffered privation. We have lived away from families. We've been shot at. All of that. Okay, that of course I have been part of that for 41 years. But this day-to-day, specifically meeting the deadlines, the numbers, to be weighed in like that on a daily basis, and there is a lot of competence outside. We got to respect that, and I think the language will follow, the lingo will follow. I'm sorry I've given a very general answer, but that's what it is. Thank you.
No, thank you. No, thank you for that insight. Appreciate it. That brings me to my last question for the evening. And before that, I see Amit's hand is raised. So, Amit, very quickly and very brief, please. You were wanting to add something here? Go for it.
I'm just trying to amplify the point that General Bali said. I call him General Bali because I respect the rank, I respect the service, I respect the institution that he represents. If it were to mean anything and I were to call him Neeraj, I would be hesitant because that is my upbringing as I have been in the uniform. It is inbuilt. It's hesitancy to let it go that is the problem. I think the respect is there for everyone. And especially when it comes to the part about, say, baggage or, say, upskilling. Again, I would reiterate the point that different veterans start off at different criteria. A SS officer who spent 10 years may not be that rooted to rank. A person who's been for 20 years, somebody as a premature retirement, that is Harsh or me, we may be more open to discussion either way. And a person who is retired after, say, 34 years would require much more persuasion. So it is again very specific. There are variations in it. And in general, I have found, especially on LinkedIn, most of the veterans are trying to understand how it works in the corporate world and they are making a genuine effort. I think we have to hand it to them over there. Preeti, back to you.
Thank you so much for those insights, Amit. And that brings me to a few comments that I'm going to sort of quickly read out here. And Colonel Ajay Kotwal, we see your question coming in, but we are in the very last 5 minutes of our interaction today. So may I request you to please reach out to General Bali via LinkedIn, and he would be able to talk to you about his experiences at length. Excuse us today. Unfortunately, we'll not be able to take on that another time. So with that, Pranav Parashar says, he makes a comment while we were talking about millennials. He says, just for the records, there are millennials veterans on board as well. He himself came out after 10 years of being in the service, so that is why he's making that jovial comment. And that brings me to the last question, rather to all of you, to the entire panel, there's John, General Bali, and Harsh. It's basically not a question, but it is something that I have seen that is really lacking in our existing veteran community here in this country. It's all about visibility, because we do keep having these dialogues with the corporates and the HR folks, and the prime question that comes from them is, where do I go looking for veterans? Because there is a very small percentage of veterans that are on LinkedIn, and even if they are, as Vivek put it, lurkers and not really engaging. They are not creators. So the question is, your comments, and I'll come sequentially. So I'll come over to you, John, first. Your comments on networking, relationship building, and visibility, very briefly. Over to you, John.
Sure. So we've talked about networking a lot during this discussion, and I believe in all the different forms of networking, whether it's on LinkedIn. Don't be in your shell. Talk to people, and as you're having discussions with people, inevitably the conversation is going to turn to what have you done in the past, and that's a more I guess dinosaur way for our millennial friends of figuring out who a veteran is and who a veteran isn't. I don't know that it's called the same thing in India or if it even exists, but particularly within the larger corporations in America, they have things called affinity groups, and those are simply groups of people within a corporation that have a specific tie together, and it might be in several of them. A lot of them, they have a veterans affinity group. So I bring that up because if it exists, if affinity groups exist or something similar to that, particularly when you're talking about Lowe's India or Amazon or any of those larger corporations, then create a veterans affinity group to go with the other affinity groups. And then particularly with your organizations, your companies that do have ties to the United States, that there are veteran hiring practices that are going on in the United States companies, so that leverage that veterans affinity group to try and bring programs such as that over to their partners in India.
Very valid points. Thank you so much for that. Yes, absolutely. And
Okay.
here is a ready-made sort of an existing relationship that you just spoke about, wherein it can be leveraged from the US counterparts to their counterparts here in this country, which means there is affinity anyway, and there is this knowledge about such a group being existing in the US. So why cannot that can be replicated here in this country? So that is an excellent point. I'm sure we are going to look into that, for our own self and bring those conversations to this table as well. Coming back to you, Harsh, what are your views on being visible, making those relationships, and networking, whether online or offline? Over to you, Harsh.
Yeah, Preeti, I'll keep it short. In present day, network is net worth. Whether you are looking for transition or even if you've done the transition after that, if you want to do upskilling, not only in terms of certificates or the knowledge, but if you're dealing with every time different type of variety of professions, it's what as a defense veteran I've seen, we generally get restricted to the defense community only. But LinkedIn is a platform. As of now, the LinkedIn is the platform where we can interact with different type of professions, which actually broadens your horizon as per your perspective, whatever you want to see, which the community which resonates with you. So networking is network in present day. Every time you cannot see ki where from where I can get advantage. It's not only that. So networking is a must. Visibility, certainly with the networking, and this all the social media platforms, whether it is LinkedIn, whether it's Insta, the people are building their visibility, which certainly helps them in the professional growth as well as the personal growth. Right now, what John said is very pertinent point. What the US companies are giving, the veteran hiring program, we don't have a structured veteran hiring program in India because we are not able to push it like from an organizational side. But we cannot be depending on organization for organization per se. I don't mean the Indian Army and the Defense Forces. What I mean, as a community, we have not been able to push what General Bali also said initially. So what you are doing here in LinkedIn Local now, as a veteran community, when we are having these interactions, it is certainly giving a visibility to the complete community. Lots of people, lots of HRs, lots of head HRs will be seeing this program, will be they are becoming about this program, whether it is veteran spotlight or today's interaction or what is happening on going to be happening on 24th. This is certainly giving visibility to the complete defense veteran community, and it is actually commendable. That is all, Preeti.
Thank you very much for those very kind words, and I'm thankful for your support as well to the entire cause. Last but not the least, General Bali, coming over to you with your comments on this whole piece of, again, networking, being visible, and being vocal about what you stand for and what you are. Over to you, General Bali. Thank you.
All right, so great deal has been said about being visible online, networking online, and I agree with everything. As a matter of fact, I picked up something new today about posting once a week, which is I am active, but I have never thought of it like that. So that's a takeaway for me too. I'm going to talk about networking offline. I'm a great votary of networking, not in the, if I may say, obscene sense of the word, which is purely transactional, where you are simply trying to know people because you want to get ahead with some personal interest. I have always treated networking as sometimes it's not give and take, sometimes it's give and give. You just get to know people, you enjoy their equations with them, you tend to learn a great deal by just listening, which is one of the flaws even I had as a veteran. We tend to talk about our own experience rather than listening. So if you listen aggressively to the people you meet, you pick up a lot of nuggets, you pick up a lot of experience. Uh, I think you should meet as many people as you can. If you hit 100 billiard balls, chances are you'll pocket at least one. So that's the route to take. In my last posting, I used to follow a little stratagem, which I may share. I made a lot of friends and got invited to a whole lot of civilian corporate events, whether it was the Maharashtra Chamber of Commerce leadership seminar or whether it was British Business Group or you name it. I used to go everywhere as just one of the participants who sit down in the crowd. Typically, what happens in these events is that everyone gives everyone a visiting card. Okay, it's a ritual. It's like saying hello. So what I would do is I would engage the person in a conversation. If I thought this was an interesting person to meet again or to talk to, if just to learn, if not just to network, I put the visiting card in one pocket. And if I thought there was nothing else there was no potential there, I put it in a different pocket. Every single time I've come home, I've taken out the cards which had to be followed up and written an email the same very night to the people. And I've said to them, we met in this function today. I was fascinated by the fact that you have such an interest in military history. I think we should meet more often. Can we set a date in the next 15 days for a cup of coffee? It'll be my pleasure to host you. Uh, I've made a lot of friendships. I can't say that everything has been monetized. Of course not. But I've made a lot of good friendship. And that has carried me in good stead in understanding as to what goes on. So that's all I have to say. But I was just quickly take this opportunity to say I will answer Colonel Ajay Kotwal separately. He's one of the finest professionals I have known. There was a question asked of me by Pranav Prashar, which I couldn't answer. So Pranav, check your LinkedIn. I've already answered it there on your message. And there is something very wonderful which Abraham Cherin, I think he's a veteran too, who said. He said the challenge at the senior levels due to your leadership skills is to engage with your peers in the middle level who are technically more proficient than you. So you've got to use your skills to deal with people as a veteran, with people who are going to be more proficient. I'm sorry, I went off on a tangent, but that's all I had to say. Finally, Preeti, really fantastic work. Anytime you want my support for whatever little it is worth, I'm here. I think more power to three of you and the organization. The veterans will definitely gain. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. With that, I would like to add a couple of my own bits to this whole piece of visibility, because that is where I have found the most challenges in the veteran community. So I would say, step out of your comfort zone, people. Get out of that echo chamber of mixing only with the veterans. Get different perspectives in terms of age, profession, levels of people that you engage with, and finally, engage, and give. Those are the only mantras of becoming visible, becoming vocal, making those relationships rather than going for transactional networking. So that is all which is in from my side. With that, we have come to the point wherein we have to say our thank yous and bye byes. So, first of all, thank you very much to the entire panel, to John, General Bali, and to Harsh for being here. Thank you to the attendees for being so patient with us, giving us 90 minutes of your time on a Friday evening and bearing with us and listening to everything that we had to say. Thank you to our streaming partners, Echo Events, for bringing this episode, this LinkedIn Live to you people. Finally, a big thanks to my co-host Vivek Chadha and Colonel Amit Verma, retired, for being such a wonderful team, and all of us working together. I am sure that we will be able to do a lot with this passion project of ours, which is the Veteran Project. Thank you, General Bali, very much for that kind offer. And once again, take care, everyone, and good night. This is me, Preeti Chaudhary, signing off from this Local India online via LinkedIn Live. Until next time, take care.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Take care. Good night.
Stay safe, John. I know where you are.
Thank you very much.